name is Michael Hardman and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. We're back today for another video on a helpful coping skill that you can use to aid your therapy journey. Today we're going to be going over something exciting, a topic that's all the rage these days in therapy circles, in personal therapy, really in the psyche of a lot of people, and it's mindfulness. Mindfulness is a big buzzword today as well, and it's an incredible tool to help one become more aware of themselves and their inner experiences, whether that be their thoughts, feelings, and any experiences in between those two things. I'll tell you what mindfulness is not. To get started, mindfulness is not a cure to all life's qualms or problems. Mindfulness does not take the pain of living away. And mindfulness is not a cure or antidote to run-of-the-mill anxiety. It can help with anxiety, but it is not a complete and total antidote to disconnecting oneself from anxiety. We have to check our expectations with what mindfulness is, because again, it's a big buzzword. I can imagine it's sold as the key to a healthy mind, and maybe it's one of them, but it's not the only thing. So, mindfulness. Definition. The definition of mindfulness is a sharp awareness or attention on one's felt experiences, their emotions, their bodily sensations, as well as thoughts. And mindfulness can extend to external stimuli, which includes things going on around the person and their environment, such as there's a light bulb on right over there, being mindful of that, being mindful of the color, noticing that as I stare more into the light bulb itself, the light becomes brighter and brighter as it probably burns into my eye. It definitely did. Now that I'm looking back at the screen, I'm getting the blotches. Mindfulness is really all about attention. It's about being conscious with your attention, using your attention as the means to see almost everything that you are experiencing in a moment. Mindfulness can be compared to the state of being awake, of participating fully in your experiences, observing fully your experiences. Why is this helpful? Well, the opposite of mindfulness is mindlessness, which is a state that we all go into. Even probably the greatest mindfulness enthusiasts, instructors, they probably go into a state of mindlessness as well in their life and in their experiences. It's when we turn off our attention and we live kind of on automatic. We live more on reactions. We don't see our choices and our feelings before we make an action or react to something. Mindlessness is the state of, well, bringing it to eating, it's the state of just, watching TV and going through a bag of Lay's, not really noticing how much you're eating. Mindlessness is automatically retreating from fear without checking in first if that's the right reaction. Oftentimes, retreating can be a helpful thing, but to automatically, I feel scared, I run away from the experience. That mindlessness can reinforce a cycle of avoidance. What's another mindlessness? Oh, I'm trying to think of them. Oh, anyhow. Example of mindfulness can be choosing. Well, it's actually the act of choice. It starts off with awareness, and then it goes into choice based off of what we see in our awareness. So, for example, right, like bringing it back to eating again, mindful eating could be noticing one's hunger, right? Feeling what that's like in the stomach. The thought comes, maybe I should eat, or the impulse to walk into the kitchen comes up. All right, you notice that, right? And you choose to follow it. Okay, I'm feeling hungry, let me follow up on that. And then, choosing to get something to eat, looking through the options in the fridge and making choices. Should I go for the sandwich today? How hungry am I? Okay, maybe I may need to make that a double meat sandwich if I'm very hungry. Also, mindfulness takes into account other motivations. So, for example, somebody who's trying to eat a bit healthier might not double the meat, or might not add cheese to the sandwich, or might, when they're eating the sandwich, which is his steps down the line, but eat slowly and feel the sensation of, of digestion and satiation, and might be done maybe 3/4 of the way through the sandwich, and then say, you know what, okay, I'm done. And then it was a good idea, like, oh, it's a good thing I didn't microwave those fries. Mindfulness is really giving yourself choices by observing your felt experiences, what you want, your urges, your bodily sensations, and the thoughts that go along with them. So why is this so key to be mindful, especially if you're on your own journey of growth and mental wellness? Mindfulness enables one to disconnect a bit from their mind. Sometimes we can feel like we are very much connected to our mind, and we have to listen exactly to what our thoughts and feelings are telling us to do. That makes it hard to tolerate, if we're so jumpy in response, let's say, to a certain type of stimulus, right? But jumpiness is not the right way to respond in a moment, right? If we're operating automatically, listening to everything our mind says, right? We're not really going to have a choice in our behaviors. With mindfulness, it allows us to separate a bit from our mind, to be able to observe a bit more, to take a few more seconds before we act and look at our choices that come up in our head, and make the best possible choice. The way I like to say it is that you are not your mind. You are the being, the thing that has the mind, and that sees the mind, and that feels the mind. So you don't have to automatically listen to what the mind is demanding you to do in the moment. And this is very helpful, especially when we're trying to not give in to certain urges, or as DBT calls it, not give in to certain emotion mind urges. So this can be very helpful to practice mindfulness, to disconnect a bit from the mind, to give us a bit more time before we act on impulse, to give us choices instead of just following the initial impulse, but giving ourselves a bit more time to think through our actions. How do we practice mindfulness now? Well, that's a good question. How do we practice mindfulness? Well, mindfulness can start with just focusing on your breathing. It's one of the essential bodily processes that never stops, and in fact, it's automatic most of the time. But breathing can be a helpful tool to start honing your attention on your bodily experiences. So, it would start by breathing into your nose and really feeling what the air feels like going through your nostrils. Feeling what the air feels like in your body. For me, mine is in my chest right now. I'm feeling not a tightness, but a sensation over here. Hard to describe. See, mindfulness is a process that takes time to refine. Your definitions, your ideas, the sensations, you need to find words to match them. And then, we breathed in, we held it, and then you breathe out. What does it feel like to breathe out? So let's try that again together. Breathe in. And hold. Notice what it feels like to hold the air in. And breathe out slowly. Let's do that again. Breathing into the nose. Noticing the bodily sensations. And out slowly. Now we can pay attention to our mind mindfully. Start to notice what's going on in our head. I'm thinking about doing this video. I'm thinking about how much I'm talking right now and what I'm talking about. I'm feeling maybe a touch of anxiety, but not something that feels hurtful, but just a bit of anxiety as I do this, because I'm being very mindful of what I'm saying, and I don't want to not say the right thing in the video. So does that mean because I'm having that thought I should stop talking or redo the whole video? Well, being mindful about it, that is an option. I could also leave it as is. I'll be able to edit the video by the time, it comes out. Maybe people might actually enjoy the candidness of the video, so I may not need too much editing. Maybe I'll do a combination of editing long pauses and leave some of the candidness in. That's what we call in DBT a wise mind decision. Combines the reasonable mind and the emotion mind. Seeing both value in both logical choices, cutting long pauses in the video, and then the emotion mind being like, well, I want the video to be good. That emotional motivation for it to be liked. So bring that together for wise mind. And thanks to mindfulness, I was able to enter that state. So that's a little example of what you can do to appreciate your thoughts mindfully. And I brought in the idea of wise mind, and that's a really helpful way to focus your mindfulness. How do we go into the state of wise mind, which is both the emotional, the emotional mind being validated and heard, and also the reasonable mind being validated and heard. Oftentimes as human beings, we kind of reject a bit of our emotions, but we can't do that all the time. It leads to a bad buildup that can make us feel pretty crappy. We have to kind of listen to the emotion mind. Do we listen to it 100% or 50% all the time? No, sometimes we have to reject some of its notions or try to soothe ourselves a bit so that we feel a bit better, especially in cases of anxiety. The wise mind is a wonderful way to combine both the reasonable and the emotion mind, and to use mindfulness to really listen to both sides of the head, to listen to both sides of your mind as you try to make choices. Now, oftentimes I've heard, and I felt in my own practice of mindfulness, that it can feel strange to self-validate and be mindful. These two things are very connected. When you hear yourself out, people tend to self-validate instead of shutting themselves down. It could go against our modus operandus of, being anxious and self-judging and, belittling ourselves. So if that ever happens to you, just be mindful of that experience and, let that discomfort go and continue moving towards a state of growth, mindfulness, and self-validation. I think that's going to be it for today. I hope you have a nice day and that your journey is going well. This has been Michael Hartman, licensed mental health counselor. It was good speaking to you. Be well. Bye-bye now.